Angie Andrews Eyesight here. We got a nice little doozy of a story. I'm just going to share my life in the hood. Yeah. So when I immediately got out of college, I was an autistic therapist, and my job was to work among the people that I was doing like social services with, and many of them had autism. I'm not even going to explain that because I had a dream and that really wasn't worth investing into because it was going to be a man epidemic. Okay. But anyway, now that we're here among the present and I've been removed out of the Savannah schools where I worked for another 5 years in Title I schools, aka the hood, I can tell my stories without so much anger because I'm removed from it. I did write a book about it, took it to a publisher, and upon editing was told, wow, this could be a really great movie because nobody's writing original things today. And this could be a controversial story at that. And I'm like, well, if it's going to be on the silver screen, then I may as well play myself and be the main character. I mean, who else would better represent? So this was a day in the life of a long-term sub position. I had no access to the computer, which is spitting out like a new assignment that should be done, and I had no books because they were Googling the matter. Yeah, there was not a book to be found in all of Savannah schools. And this, led to lots of mayhem. We had gang life, my jugular was held by scissors, all kinds of fun stuff on the daily. So I'm in this 5th grade classroom, and I'm telling the kids I had to go covert. I mean, I had to do this. And I'm sharing the story now because I'm so far removed. But I told the kids, you'll learn really quickly how unforgiving the world is by watching the adults in your life. And you already know this because home life is basically not where you want to be. And when you see another teacher talk like rudely to another teacher, just think about yourself and how you're out at recess on the playground and somebody throws shade and you feel it and you're like, that doesn't feel good. But you either have two choices. You're like, okay, that's their problem and you walk away, or in the hood commonly they're gonna make it their business and they're gonna, duke it out. So I was trying to persuade these youngsters to not be so fighting with the fists but use the wits type of thing. So I laid down the groundwork and I said, when you see another teacher walking in that door, they're really checking up on Miss Angie. So open your books. Oh, that's right, you don't have them. Take out a sheet of paper. Oh, you don't have that either. Let me give you a sheet of paper and let me break out a new box of pencils so that you can have something to write with. And when a teacher walks in, you're going to comply and act as if we're doing the lesson. Oh, the lesson that I wrote, by the way, because I had to write my own lesson plans, which was good. It stretched me, it challenged me, made me the person I am today. Thank you very much. So this happened quite often because they didn't like my style. Go figure. And they always had to be like, Miss Andrews, are you doing what you're supposed to be doing? Am I winging it? And am I teaching them hardcore life skills? You betcha, I sure as heck am. Because these kids were coming in with turmoil. And when I tell you they had the ability to hold this space for each other, when we talked about hood life, I would just open the forum. I want you to tell me about things that are going on at home that conflict with you and keep you from being able to learn on the school front. Because I know that's real. How many of you were wanted? No? No one? Gone once, twice, 3 times? Me neither. So let's just jump in and dive in and start there. So I would have these teachers that would walk in. Of course, they're checking up on me. And I'd be like, and so I want you to write down now connotation. And these kids would just go with it. No, I'm saying, I'm acting a little bit like Tamar in the Bible. Not always are we going to be able to play by the system's rules if it's crap to begin with. So we're going to have to actually use a brain cell, and we're going to have to execute some covert, type of application. So basically I was teaching the kids, follow my lead. I will take responsibility. I get fired, which commonly happens. No biggie. I'll be replaced, but you'll remember me here. So they would just pick up the pencil and they'd start writing and acting like we were going through a lesson that I was teaching. I was teaching a lesson. I was teaching a lesson about how do we emotionally focus on passing to the next grade, even when we don't feel equipped or we know what we're doing. And so there's this one little boy, he was a cute, pudgy little thing, and he was just like really having a panic attack. And he's like, I just don't understand. Like, we're talking about this, and are you telling me that things are going to be okay? And I'm like, yes, sweetie, I'm telling you that things are going to be okay, because we're going to suffer in this world. We're going to go through trial and tribulation. And everybody down here in the South thinks they're Christian. So haven't you heard that at church? Oh, no, he starts telling me, and everybody concurs about the stories they hear about, casting out demons and front of the church and all this kind of cray-cray that's going on. And I'm like, well, I'm here to set the record straight. That's ridiculous, and it's a bunch of baloney. So how can I make you feel that this is a place right now where you can learn? What is it that you need? Do you need a sign from God? And he's like, you can't talk about God. I'm like, I just did. Okay? Again, everybody's born a Christian here. This should be able to be one thing that's a commonality. So he said, well, what do you do? And I'm like, when I get upset because other teachers want to put me in my place, and they think that they're embarrassing me or putting me down in front of you, but I love you, and it says more about them than it does me. That's what you have to remember. Whenever somebody else is coming against you, you have to find the gumption within inside of you that lines up with a sign from heaven that tells you that you are going to make it in this world and you have everything that it takes. And so I said, like butterflies, for instance. I don't particularly care for the color yellow, but I had a vision, and it was like yellow flowers, and there was butterflies, and when I woke up, I knew that it basically meant new beginnings. And this one little child is just like, well, we're not guaranteed new beginnings, and we still got to go back to our homes, and things go bad there. And I'm like, yes, they do. I'm like, but sometimes in the midst of those terrible moments, God will still send you a sign. And I kid you not, the windows were open that day, my friends, and this yellow butterfly flits into the room, lands right on my desk in front of this child. Myself included, and everybody in that room was like, whoa. I'm just saying, I can't conjure this up and make sure this stuff happens if my life depended on it. But that is the God that we serve. When these little kids can be like, I need a sign, and I'm like, there you go. Now there's 51 of us in this room, and we all witness the same thing. That is a miracle. Is that not worth something to talk about? Should we not be learning more about the subject matter of when we go through hardship, all we need to do is ask for proof that we have a loving God? Because that was a sign not only to me, but to this young man and everybody else that witnessed it, that God still loves and cares about them. What is your sign? I like numbers. I see the same numbers all the time, and every time I see them, I know that means something. There hasn't been a day during this quarantine that I haven't gone outside and haven't seen a yellow butterfly. And I'm reminded of the beautiful story that I had in the hood. In the midst of chaos, in the midst of trial, in the midst of things that are oppressed, that are forsaken, where it looks like dreariness and nothing good is going to be on the horizon, those are the times when you're like, wait a minute, what have I seen already? What do I know that God has proven to me already in this time, in my life, up until this very moment? And there's plenty of things. So if you don't know when or how God talks to you, let me put it really simply. You're driving down the road and you're speeding, and you're like, oh, I better put my seatbelt on, I better start slowing it down. You turn the corner and there's a cop. That's God talking to you. Or you're thinking of a person for more than 2 days in a row, and then you're like, man, I get a phone call and it's that person. That's God talking to you. I mean, the numerous things of, oh, wow, you know what? I just saw the movie The Shack. And even though it was a movie of hardship and turmoil, a ladybug is still representative of God's good gift. And then one lands on my hand. It's going to be different for you than it was for that little boy in the school setting.